Maia Vidal no Estúdio Showlivre. Well, again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Really great music. Which makes me kind of mad because some people study for centuries to get to music. And you told a story in about 3 years away from it.
Wow. I did start violin when I was 7, so now that's, I don't know. What is 24 minus 7? I don't know. What is it? I'm so bad at math. 17 years?
Well, this is your first record, God Is My Bike. And you played all the instruments, right?
Almost.
Almost all of them.
Everything except drums, the bass, and then trumpet, and then Marc Ribot played some guitar on it.
I see. And how did that idea came up, like to play almost all instruments and not have a band? I don't know.
Well, I think it was pretty just, again, pretty sort of natural. It was not a choice. It was more like, I just started writing songs in my bedroom, and instead of having to call someone up or meet people or, I just learned how to play them myself. I think after violin, most instruments are pretty easy to learn how to play. So I think it was, it was mostly that, I was just feeling creative and left alone. I didn't have any guitar amps. I didn't have any drum equipment. So, even just adding drums later was kind of like a big shock for me because, I used to, when I would make my little demos on GarageBand, the percussion would be me going like boom, or boom, cha, cha, boom, cha. Like that's actually how a lot of the, rhythmic, hands and body and vocal rhythm came out, was just because I was by myself and didn't have a drum kit handy. And also, well, the cool thing is, though, in live, and it took me a while to figure out how to work with other people because I don't know, with this project, I'm very, I know exactly what I want. I know exactly how I want it to sound. So it's, it's not everybody's taste to play in a band with somebody like me. But the cool thing is in live, I'm working with multi-instrumentalists as well. Simon can play basically any instrument that he picks up. So, if I say, oh, instead of guitar, could you play the clarinet on this part? Or instead of this, could you play that? So that's kind of nice because it means it's you have that many more options. Yeah.
But it's good to have the final word, I believe.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, when I was in my punk band, there were 3 of us, and I was still writing the songs and sort of leading it, but there was some level of, we were a band, and I think that's actually what I wanted to avoid. It's like I didn't like the sort of disorganization and having to be like, come on, guys, let's rehearse, and so that's why it took me so long to start working with other people. So I was like, I'm motivated. I'm just gonna play everything myself. And when I started playing live, I was playing by myself, and so I had the drum, the piano, and that's actually how a lot of the, instrumentation. That's why I used them to a certain extent too, because it meant that they're portable and I could play them all with my various hands and feet.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, how the idea of the toy piano came.
It's my dad. Right when I was starting to do these songs, my dad gave it to me for Christmas, and it was sort of like, I'd never had a toy piano before. It was so exciting, and yeah, it was mostly convenience and sort of feeling, just free to be able to play it with one hand, forget about it, come back to it, do sort of percussive things. Now sometimes I think that maybe I see it just as an instrument because I've been using it so long, but I think that sometimes maybe people see it too much as like a baby instrument, like a toy instrument, and so whatever I play with it, people get a sort of like, oh, it's childlike. But for me, I've forgotten that completely. For me, it's just another sound like anything else.
And it's easier to tune it, I believe.
Exactly. And much more portable.
Yeah. Well, there's this phrase here that brought my attention. Like, I used to ride my bike to get closer to God. Now I'm cry at night because I know that God is dead. How did the whole idea came from the God is my bike?
Well, it's kind of a magical tale of, I was living in Barcelona, and a friend of mine lent me their bike, and so I had a bike, and so sometimes I would ride my bike at night and feel I don't know, it happened to me a couple times. I had like music in one earphone, there was nobody else on the road, and it just felt like, I don't know, I felt like full of this light and felt like unified with the universe. And I'm not a religious person, but if I had been, I would have said I felt like close to God or some sort of kind of religious experience. And I was really moved by that, and so I wrote a lot during that period. And then one day I woke up and my bike was gone. And, you know, whatever, you go on with your life. But after a couple of weeks, I realized that I was not having that feeling anymore. And so it became this sort of metaphor for kind of the maybe loss of faith and kind of feeling, maybe when you're a child, you feel like kind of close to God because you know, everything feels magical. And then at some point, maybe you lose that connection and you start to really wonder if it was ever real or if it was just, you know. And so it's sort of ironic because obviously it's a really mundane thing about your bike being stolen, but also just sort of, a way to express those different feelings, the sadness of losing that feeling of infinite and being in touch with the universe and everything.
And did you find out if the bike was like the actual key to that connection?
I think it is. I mean, I really, I don't have that. Well, I don't have that exact feeling on foot, basically.
And does music bring you that feeling?
I was gonna say that, but I didn't want it to sound corny. But it's true that like sometimes on stage, I'm like outside of myself. Like I'm so. I mean, a lot of the times, you know, I play the songs very often. I've been playing them for a long time, and so sometimes you get used to it, and sometimes you don't feel them as much. But just out of nowhere, you might play a show where suddenly you're crying on stage, and you just totally didn't even notice it, and you don't know why, and it's just sort of. I think that I guess that's the closest thing that comes to it, is just feeling like, you know, that you're making it, which is nice because you don't need a bike. You just have to play music.
Yeah, nice. And well, coming back to mundane things again, do you have any new release?
Well, I'm super excited about it. So this whole year, when I wasn't touring, I was coming home to record. And I thought that I was worried that I wouldn't feel creative on tour because God Is My Bike, I wrote it in, you know, a couple of weeks in my bedroom by myself. And so I kind of thought that was my only way to be creative. And so I worried, if I'm always on the tour, always on the road, how am I going to write an album? But it ended up being that traveling so much really inspired me. And so, you know, a lot of the times I would be writing, you know, when we're on the train or in the plane or at the airport or in a hotel room, I'd be, you know, little melodies would come into my head and I'd record them or, you know, and I would just be writing little lines of poetry and then later managed to like fuse the two together. And so every time we came home, like I have a recording studio in my house, so it would be come back from tour, okay, we have 7 days, we can record all 7 of those days, which meant for like 7 months I didn't have a single weekend or vacation because it was just like all the time. So over the course of these last 7 months, I wrote and recorded a new album, and right now we're just in the last stages. I just finished the album art and we're just finishing the mastering stage, and so normally it should come out in, you know, end of March or April 2013.
You have to come back to Brazil to release it.
I know. It's going to be great.
Just something curious that happened that got to me. Do you have like a discipline to turn that free time that you have, that small free time, the little free time, into work time?
I think I don't know, it's something that just happens naturally. It's like, you know, it takes some getting used to, because when you start touring, you know, you're a little bit stressed out, and then you sort of rush, and then you realize you're here and you're waiting. There's a lot of hurrying up and waiting and a lot of dead time. And at first, you know, you don't really know how to use that. You just sort of are like, oh, this is boring, you know. And I had a phase where I watched a lot of movies on my laptop and stuff like that. And then, you know, in other moments, once I started turning it on, once I started feeling things, having things come to me, and allowing that to happen. It was all the time. It was like, you know, literally get in the train and without even thinking, starting writing, starting humming a melody, and literally even, you know, and sometimes it wasn't even sort of a discipline at all. It was just, I couldn't help it. I was on a plane, and I had to, the last song that I wrote on the album, which was, it came to me while I was sitting in the plane before it took off. So I couldn't turn on any electronic devices to record the melody or the words, because it was like you're not allowed to have your laptop on or anything. And so I literally, and for the first time in years, wrote it out in like in musical notes so that I wouldn't forget the melody. And I wrote the whole song basically while we were just sitting on the tarmac, and I was like repeating itself, repeating. And as soon as they said you can turn it on, I took my laptop out and I started recording in GarageBand, literally like with the little mic, and there's like a person next to me, and I'm like, like, you know. So, you know, and that I would never have thought that would be something that would happen, but I was just inspired while waiting to take off, so.